Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly Stevens. I'm the author of the Tanyuin Academy series, and this is English Nerd. So I have graded a whole lot of essays in my day. The good, the bad, the ugly, the ones that didn't make sense, and then the ones that were better than something I could come up with. And what I've found is that there are 6 giveaways for somebody who is definitely an amateur writer of essays. So I wanted to share those with you and help you to kind of troubleshoot those and start to go from maybe being a, solid essay writer to somebody who is more sophisticated and no longer kind of more amateurish. So these are 6 things that peg you as an amateur writer of essays. Now, the first one should surprise nobody, and that is a lot of mechanical errors. Mechanical errors meaning spelling, vocabulary, not vocabulary, spelling and grammar, punctuation, that kind of thing. Now, a first draft is just kind of a free-for-all. It's fine if you have lots of mechanical errors in your first draft. The problem is if you turn in that first draft and you don't actually go through and fix some of those. So learning to spot the places where you have actually spelled something incorrectly and then look it up and make sure that that's fixed. Now, a couple of mechanical errors is not going to peg you as an amateur essay writer, but a lot of them, like throughout, is definitely going to demonstrate that you did not take the time to actually go back and edit what you had there. So that's where you run into a problem. Okay, number 2 is redundant phrasing. Another thing that shows me that people haven't really either become comfortable with writing essays or they really don't know how to write a particularly good one is when the phrasing is super redundant. So let's say that your essay is meant to be about, what book shall I choose? Sherlock Holmes and the Hound of the Baskervilles. That one's great. Now, if you consistently use the word terror or you consistently use the word hound, like so much that it becomes distracting and you're not mixing up your vocabulary at all, you're just kind of saying the same thing in a few different ways and like mixing around kind of the words in your sentence, then that's going to tell me you don't really have much to say about this topic, and it will not give me a lot of confidence that you know what you're doing argument-wise. So avoid redundant phrasing, avoid using the same word over and over again. Obviously, you're going to need to use the same word sometimes, and that's perfectly fine. The problem is when you start doing daisy chaining, when you can circle the use of the word terror or hound or something, and it just is this daisy chain all the way down your paper, then that's a tip-off that you probably should say something different about the topic or make a different point or use different words. So that's something also that you want to try to avoid. It's another thing that can be easily edited out as well. So keep your eye open for redundancy and make sure that you are adding on to your points and elaborating on them rather than just saying the same thing over and over to hit the word count, because nobody what you have to say is a lot more important than how long it takes you to say it. Even if you do have to hit a word count, if you're just being redundant to get there, then it's defeated the purpose completely. Let me see, I have my notes as usual just written down. Okay, so number 3 is introducing the topic, but not having any clear claim about it. So maybe you're talking about Flannery O'Connor and A Good Man is Hard to Find. Great, cool. And you introduce the work and the author and everything in maybe your first paragraph. But you don't actually say what your essay is going to be about regarding it. What is your claim? What are you going to be elaborating on or proving? Without that clear claim, without a solid thesis to guide the rest of your paper, I, the reader, am just thinking, okay, so this paper is about A Good Man is Hard to Find, but I don't know what you're going to talk about. I don't know why I should care. I don't know what you're aiming toward with your with your thoughts. And so make sure that you don't just introduce a topic, but you also make it clear why this essay exists. What is it there to say or to do or to prove? And with that, then I can go, oh, okay, well, you're here to prove that the misfit character in that story is actually the hero, which would be hard to do, but that's what your goal is, and so you're going to bring in evidence and all of that. So make sure that you begin not only by talking about what the topic is, but also what the point of your paper about that topic is. Okay, next, that was 3. Number 4 is meta comments. This is one of the dead giveaways that people have not really written that many essays, and they aren't comfortable writing a sophisticated one. So when I say a meta comment, I mean something that says, here's the next part of my essay. Kind of like purred happily in Parks and Rec, these sort of unnecessary, and the next part of my show is going to be the part where I ask so-and-so a question, and here's my question. In an essay, this often looks like, this essay will prove that whatever. And, my next piece of evidence for this is X. Something like that. Now, of course, you do need to say what your essay is about, and you need to give your evidence and all of that, but instead of saying, here is my next piece of evidence, just launch into it. It's kind of like showing and not telling, which I talked about recently. Instead of saying my next piece of evidence is this, say at the end of the story, the misfit says blank. This demonstrates that, whatever it demonstrates. So don't say, here I am sitting here writing this essay. Instead, just make your argument, write your essay, and don't give us these meta comments that remind us of the process of writing an essay. I hope that makes sense. But this is something that I do see, and as people get more comfortable and their writing gets more sophisticated and their arguments get better, then I see all of those kind of meta comments go by the wayside. There's no longer a need to say, and now my next point is this. You can just transition neatly into that next point. That can be, writing that way can be a good stepping stone when you're first starting to write essays. When you first learn the concept of how to organize an essay. But once you reach a certain level, you need to get rid of those training wheels and instead start to make transitions yourself and claims and evidence that stand on their own instead of being introduced from the point of view of the essay writer. Okay, next is, let's see, we're on to number 5. Number 5, another thing that pegs you as an amateur essay writer is using vague statements about most people or the interesting book that I'm writing about. Now, hopefully you do think that the book you're writing a literary analysis essay about is interesting, awesome, good, but there's no need to make some sort of vague positive comment like, many people have found this book really interesting. Okay. I don't really know who cares? You need to stay more specific to your topic and the prompt. So make sure that you avoid sweeping generalizations about most people, many people, say most people. Well, how do you know, right? And also just vague praise or censure as well. Saying something is vaguely not very interesting or very interesting doesn't tell me anything specific about the book. What is interesting? Demonstrate that for me. Again, it's a showing, not telling kind of situation here. Rather than telling me this is interesting, what particularly is interesting about it, and then walk me through why that matters. So avoid those vague general statements. And then finally, last one. And this is something that I see not only with kind of newer essay writers, but even many times with my AP students who are learning to go from being a good essay writer to being an excellent essay writer. This is one of the differences between, this step and this one. It's using quotations as eloquent summary instead of as evidence. Now, what do I mean by that? Using quotations as eloquent summary instead of evidence. Normally, what I work with in terms of essays is literary analysis. Those are the ones that I feel most comfortable with. And so a lot of it is just making a point about a book, using quotations as evidence to back up your points, and you might drop at the end. What I see sometimes is that people will say things like, Hrothgar tells Beowulf to avoid pride and, hugs him before he leaves. Okay, all right. So you used a quotation there, but does it actually help to prove your point? Or is it just kind of summarizing the action in a way that sounds good? Check and see, go through your quotations, your evidence, and see, is this just eloquent summary of what happens? Or is this actual wording, is this actual part important to making your point? Is it actually evidence, or is it just a quotation for the sake of having a quotation in there because you need them? So this is something that takes some practice to identify, and it took me a while to even identify myself as a teacher. Why does this feel like nothing's really been proven, although there are a lot of quotations in here? And that is often why. So go through, see it, just look at the quotations themselves and see if there actually is evidence for the conclusions that you're coming up with regarding them. Is this sufficient to prove your point, or are these quotations just telling the story? So writing an essay is a process. I can definitely improve. I'm not going to say that, amateur essay writers are just, so dumb and, we all should be beyond this. That's not the case at all. With writing anything, you can always get better. And I think even by watching this video and starting maybe to implement these ideas, you are on the right track. So props to you for digging in there and deciding that you are going to improve your writing from wherever it is to the next step up. That is all anybody can ask of an essay writer. And so I hope you didn't get the sense that I was ragging on you. I'm trying to give you ideas for becoming better and earning better grades and making better arguments and being taken more seriously as a thinker. So like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe for more English nerdy goodness, and I'll see you next Monday.